I'm not a financial advisor, but I do hold a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology and actively invest in biotech companies.
This video is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be taken as investment advice.
These are people living with Netherton Syndrome, a life-threatening genetic disease. And these are the public companies racing to develop treatment for it. In this video, you'll learn how risky it is to invest in these companies from scientific execution and financial perspectives. Because before you can decide whether to invest, you need to know if their science even has a chance of success. And before you can judge the science, you need to understand the biology of the disease.
My name is Amy Bingham. I've got Netherton Syndrome, which is a form of ichthyosis. I'm 22. The biggest thing is the itching. That's the biggest thing for me. I lose sleep over it. I do it without even realising I'm doing it. I get really dry skin on my hands and my feet. So on my knuckles it's flaking there, but then it's really sore everywhere else. And then I get linear circumflexia. So you can see it around my wrist there, and I've got it on my feet at the minute as well. Because of the injections, I've just had a bad flare up on my legs, and it comes up massive red rashes, and the skin that is good peels away to make more red rash that's incredibly irritable.
Netherton syndrome is a rare genetic disorder that primarily affects the skin, hair, and immune system. People with Netherton syndrome have mutations in the SPINK5 gene, which encodes the LEKTI protein. LEKTI is expressed in stratified epithelial tissue and functions as a selective inhibitor of KLK5, 7, and 14 proteases. These proteases are directly involved in desquamation, the part of the skin cycle that creates new cells and pushes old ones to the surface, where they are shed. Normally, this takes about 28 days. In Netherton syndrome, due to unrestrained KLK activity, epidermal turnover can take as short as a few days. This diagram shows other processes triggered by our overreactive KLK proteases. While complicated, this diagram helps to understand the rationale behind various treatments in development. Disease-modifying approaches aim to address the root of the problem, which is KLK hyperactivity, while symptomatic approaches target the pro-inflammatory pathways that cause many of the clinical symptoms. The most promising therapy addresses the root cause, the mutated SPINK5 gene. The most direct solution would be to either fix the gene or deliver a functional copy of the gene into patient's skin cells. Azitra is attempting to do this in a clever way. There are about 1 million bacteria in every square centimeter of human skin. Most of these microbes are harmless, and many are even helpful. Azitra scientists engineered a common skin bacterium, Staphylococcus epidermidis, to produce therapeutic level of LEKTI. The idea is to seed the patient's skin with this bacteria so that they produce the missing protein directly where it's needed. In May 2024, Azitra announced positive preclinical data for ATR12. In vitro, ATR12 secreted LEKTI protein that inhibited KLK protease activity. In human cell models, KLK activity dropped nearly 7-fold, reaching levels comparable to healthy skin. Ex vivo human skin models showed that ATR12 delivered more LEKTI with deeper penetration compared to topically applied protein alone. Studies in mini pigs demonstrated that topical ATR12 increased LEKTI level on the surface of the skin 5-fold compared to placebo at day 14. The first patient with Netherton syndrome was dosed in August 2024. By June 2025, 6 patients had been dosed. No severe or serious adverse event have been reported. The trial remains blinded, and efficacy results will only be available at the end of the study, expected in late 2025. Azitra has been granted patents covering therapeutic use of recombinant skin microorganisms, and several additional patents are pending. Azitra went public in June 2023, raising $7.5 million at $5 per share. Since then, the company has raised funds through multiple public offerings and has conducted 2 reverse stock splits. Since the IPO, the stock price has dropped roughly 1,000-fold, which is not exactly what early investors were hoping for. While the science is interesting, the company is low on cash, and dilution risk is high. The second best therapeutic approach is to replicate the action of LEKTI protein. Quoin Pharmaceuticals is developing QRX003, a topical lotion engineered to function as a broad-spectrum serine protease inhibitor, intended to mimic the missing LEKTI protein. However, the active pharmaceutical ingredient has not been disclosed. There is no information about it on their website, in press releases, or clinical trial protocols. Their only published patent suggests that the lotion may contain dipalmityl hydroxyproline, an amino acid derivative commonly used in skincare and cosmetic products, including anti-aging creams. The problem is that there is no data on its activity against KLK proteases. Quoin appears to have conducted little to no preclinical studies. In December 2022, the first patient was dosed with QRX003. In November 2023, the company reported positive data for 6 patients, but provided no actual data, which likely indicates the results were not robust and the study protocol had to be adjusted. In February 2025, Quoin reported positive results for a single patient after 12 weeks of twice-daily dosing. The company is expecting to finish pivotal study in 2026 and NDA filing anticipated later that year. This sounds rather ambitious, considering the pace of their early clinical trials. Their patent indicates the treatment might consist of 2 components, with an anti-inflammatory agent as a second. There are a number of anti-inflammatory drugs that have shown some positive effects in certain patients with Netherton Syndrome. Until Quoin releases full details about what's administered in patients, it remains unclear how their therapy works. Quoin became public in October 2021 via a merger with Select Biotechnology. Since then, they have raised funds multiple times through public offering. Also, the company has conducted 3 reverse stock splits. The stock price dropped from 60,000 in October 2021 to 7 4 years later. With approximately 7 million in cash and a net loss of 3.7 million over the last 3 months, Quoin will be raising money again soon. This is not surprising, since drug development requires huge capital inflows and frequent fundraising is common. What is uncommon is for a clinical stage pharmaceutical company to spend twice as much on general and administrative expenses as on research and development. Only recently have these numbers become more balanced, but in most cases a drug development company spends far more on R&D than on salaries. Another interesting move happened around 2021, when Quoin signed several exclusive distribution agreements with companies around the world to commercialize their investigational treatment, QRX003. For Netherton Syndrome. Why would anyone spend time and money on this type of work before even testing a product in animal or humans? Well, now they can say, we have established exclusive international marketing and distribution partnerships covering 60 countries. BioCryst Pharmaceutical is another public company developing a KLK protease inhibitor for Netherton Syndrome, but their approach is subcutaneous injection rather than a topical therapy. The company claims that non-clinical studies show BCX17725 had the potency, specificity, and convenient dosing needed to treat patients. They are currently conducting a phase 1 study with results expected at the end of 2025. Since no preclinical data have been published, it's difficult to predict the outcomes. It's worth noting that Netherton Syndrome is not BioCryst's lead program. The company already has 2 revenue-generating approved drugs and reported a net profit of 156 million in the second quarter of 2025. Therefore, decisions about investing in BioCryst should not be driven by their Netherton program alone. The second group of potential therapies is systematic treatments, which primarily target pro-inflammatory pathways. These include various monoclonal antibodies already approved for other indications. Some studies have shown success in treating Netherton syndrome, while others have been less effective. The only systematic clinical trial is a phase 2-3 study conducted by Boehringer Ingelheim using Spesolimab. Since these antibodies were developed by big pharma companies for other diseases, their approval specifically for Netherton syndrome is unlikely to move the needle financially for those companies, so this should not play a role in investment decisions. The next video will be about hyperphosphatemia and the companies developing and selling treatments for it, including Unicisive, which recently reported positive phase 3 results and is now facing an FDA approval decision. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it. Thank you for watching.